Skeptical neighbors called authorities regarding an abandoned house and discovered a shocking story. A police officer's job is not all entertaining or everything it's cracked up to be in the movies and television. Certainly not in this day and age. They deal with some really strange encounters and very dangerous situations. Because the public expects so much from the police, they are saddled with a lot of responsibility. If just one officer does not live up to their code of ethics or honor, it seems the entire department is to blame. After a phone call to the police department, 2 officers were unaware what a bizarre situation they were about to walk into one October morning. A report came into the Milwaukee Police Department that neighbors living around an abandoned house were rather scared by strange occurrences, and none of them would ever step inside that house. The call that came in was transferred to Specialist Officer Dan Resnick, who handled many odd cases, but this particular case left him feeling that he had walked into a difficult situation. The question was, would he be able to handle this or not? Dan Resnick and his partner Vincenzo Paulo were making their routine rounds when they received a call about neighbors who said that there were some very strange, suspicious activities going on in a nearby abandoned house. Both of these officers were well trained and had several years of experience dealing with and untangling off-the-wall situations. They were not strangers to all kinds of cases over the years, but this was way out there. Over the years, both officers had learned to be prepared for anything. They worked 24/7, weekends, holidays, and even night shifts. There were many times they worked 24 hours a day if their job demanded it. From time to time, there were situations that were sad and bitter that society tossed their way, and this particular situation was no exception. On one particular October morning, they received a call and marked it in their record, then headed out to the location. Although neither of them thought it would be anything but a normal case, they learned over the years not to take anything for granted, and this particular day was a reminder to stay on your toes. While traveling to the location, they researched the house, but there was absolutely nothing on the internet. With no information to go on, it seemed this house didn't have much of a past. Once they arrived, Resnick and Paulo parked their car a few houses away from the abandoned house and rang the bell of the neighbor who initially called the police station. He had a completely different story to tell. He told them why he called and what concerned him so much. He told the officers he had been living in this area for over 20 years and the house had been exactly the same ever since then. The last family to live there was back in the 1990s. At one point, the family moved one by one. The kids finished school and moved on to further education, living in different cities. Then the mother and father separated and left the home shortly thereafter. Once they left the house and never looked back, they left behind many memories. That's when locals said the house was left in the hands of abandonment. As no one else ever moved into the house, maybe the house lost its soul. When every family member moved out, it almost seemed the house was lost in time. Nobody cared or paid any attention to it. Nobody ever went inside, and many people just totally forgot the house even existed. This was until something happened that caught everyone's attention. One day, something really strange happened, and nothing was ever the same again. The neighbor told the police that everyone in the area referred to the house as the haunted house. There were some strange activities going on with the house which started scaring everyone. According to their neighbors, there was something that was always going on inside the house. If this were true, they believed it would be better to leave it to the police to handle, not them. Question is, could the house really be haunted? Even though many people love ghost stories, very few actually believe in ghosts. In most cases, these conversations can lead to some interesting opinions and suggestions, but nothing more. In some cases, people were telling these stories to keep their kids away from the house, but that did not necessarily mean they'd really stay away. Kids, as well as adults, were intrigued with ghost stories and wanted to explore the abandoned house. In several cases, people's imagination will scare them to death. Although the storytelling worked at keeping some kids away, there were still some strange things going on over the past few days. Many locals felt there was just something very different about this place. So at one point, it became necessary to notify the police when one of the kids decided it was time to investigate the old house, but came back out terrified. So, just what did this kid see? What did he experience while in the house? According to the neighbor, the night before the kid was riding his bike home, when he saw lights in the house and decided to go in and see for himself, and maybe even see a ghost. It was very dark and he could hardly see anything. He said the house smelled bad, and while he was trying to find his way to the stairs to find where the light was coming from, something bit him. That's the moment the boy totally freaked out and tried to run out of the house. As he turned and ran, he felt something was moving around on the first floor, right over his head. He told his family something was following him. The parents were scared to death and proceeded to tell their neighbors about the incident when they were returning from the doctor's office, where their son was being treated for the bite. The doctor, on the other hand, had a different opinion that did not include a ghost. After treating the scared boy from his adventure in the house, he said most likely he was bitten by a rat. This is not an uncommon occurrence for an abandoned house and made a lot of sense. That said, what could explain the lights and something moving around upstairs? As no one had an answer to those questions, that's when they all decided to call the police. After hearing information about the incident, Resnick and Paulo headed out to a building by 29th and Locust. They knew caution was in order because they had no idea how bad the situation might be. They smelled rotten garbage, and as soon as they opened the door, they knew exactly what it was. The windows of the house were broken, and the main door looked like it would crumble at any time. The floor had clothing piled up everywhere, along with the presence of garbage. They searched the entire ground floor, and with the exception of mice, there was nothing moving around. Resnick and Paulo were ready to go upstairs when they heard something falling on the first floor.
The house was very, very cold. Broken upstairs windows, draft through the house, clothes and garbage and beds.
Something seemed strange about the place that was different from other abandoned buildings they had encountered in the past. They slowly and silently moved up the stairs while it was freezing. The curtains were torn and all the windows were broken. They were stunned to discover what was awaiting them. Suddenly, everything started to make sense. There was a pregnant woman standing in front of them, but they did not believe she was a ghost. She had been living in this abandoned house over the past few days because winter was ready to move into the area. They knew this place was not going to protect her from the weather. There was no heat, electricity, or water, and nothing to eat. Upon speaking with her, they now understood how serious the situation was. This woman was having a really tough time surviving. She was fired from her job, which none of it was her fault, and because she couldn't pay her rent for 2 months, the landlord asked her to leave. Paulo continued talking to her while Resnick checked out the bathroom.
I came into the bedroom and I observed like winter sheets on a bed, and I just moved the sheets.
And then pulled a sheet off the old mattress and realized she was not alone in the room. The mattress was badly torn and covered in sheets.
I just moved the sheets, and then that's when I saw the 2-year-old for the first time. He was in what looked to be about 2 or 3 winter jackets.
The 2-year-old was sleeping on the mattress and wearing 3 jackets to try and stay warm. The officers knew these jackets were not enough to keep him warm in this freezing weather. Resnick took the boy by the hand and led him to the room where Paulo was talking to the woman. The boy was shaking so badly.
Very cold, very hungry. There was no food in this house, nothing to drink. Trying to get that child some warmth. And they were really concerned because mother was also pregnant.
Paulo knew he needed to get him to a place that was warm as quickly as possible. Taking the boy by the hand, he brought him out to their car when the neighbors started coming out asking a lot of questions. Instead of answering their questions, he got in the car and placed the child on his lap. He turned on the heater to warm up the boy and then realized he was also very hungry. Paulo had found a bag of chips in the house, but the boy couldn't eat the chips.
But because of his jacket, his 3 coats, he couldn't get his hand inside the bag of chips because it was so thick that I actually had to feed him chips.
And the officer had nothing else to offer him. He couldn't wait on Resnick to return, so he did the best he could. He decided to feed the chips to him by hand while the boy finished the bag in under 2 minutes. Knowing the boy was still hungry, he drove the car to the nearest McDonald's to get chicken nuggets and fries. He was happy and quickly scarfed down the food.
Oh, he was really hungry.
You like
Scarfed
the
it
fries?
down.
He really liked the fries. The boy was now smiling. Paulo then drove back from McDonald's and waited for Resnick to wrap up his interview with the pregnant woman. Later on during an interview, Resnick said that Paulo is such a generous man.
It hurts my heart when I see children like this. It's unfortunate, but we see this quite often.
Resnick took a photo of the happy moment of the child sitting on Paulo's lap, but never realized this photo would get the huge response it did. Resnick also shared the photo with Paulo's wife, Mel Williams.
That's why the picture was originally taken, was adopting another one. Here you go. And it was sent to his wife.
Paulo and Mel had adopted 5 children from the local foster facility, and Resnick joked that they should have one more child.
And co-workers often joke with me as if I'm going to take home every child that I see, and I really wish that I could.
Later on, the photo was posted on the Milwaukee Police Department's Facebook page. They received so many responses from people, which was more than they could have ever expected. The photo of Paulo and the baby on his lap received over 4,000 likes and more than 2,000 shares. People were very proud of their police officers and were considered heroes. Resnick and Paulo did not see it quite that way and were very humble.
We don't want recognition. It's just what we do because we're dads, we're people. We don't do it just because we're police officers and it's our job.
He just knew how to calm the child down and bring a smile to his face. Paulo also added,
Playing with my bracelet. My daughter made it for me and I always wear it to work. I was trying to do anything I could to occupy him and kind of take his mind off of what's going on.
Paulo and Resnick both suffered from heartaches for the bad conditions some kids live in. This officer is a man with a kind heart, and the actions of both officers made a huge difference in the lives of the boy and his mother. Presently, the police department has reached out to social service organizations that are helping the homeless woman and her small son. They have helped her land a job and a home to live in. Her son, for now, is living in foster care until his mom can take him to their permanent home. For those people that only see negative things in police, you should reflect on this. Police, just like everyone else, are people, and many officers have fallen caused by hatred. Come together and help each other out when the need arises. You might discover you have saved someone's life or made their lives just a little bit better.